Welcome back to the channel. It's time for Doc and Wes to talk about the very worst comic book of the week. We suspected Deadpool #1 from Alyssa Wong at Marvel Comics was going to be absolutely dreadful, and that didn't really happen here. In fact, I'm probably going to end up recommending this comic book, and here to talk to me about that is Doc. How you doing, Doc?
I didn't hate this comic book. I didn't like it, but I also didn't hate it, which is an absolute improvement on most other comic books being published today.
Yeah, I was surprised. It ended up being pretty good. It's not like laugh out loud funny, but the jokes aren't exactly cringe either. Certainly, this is influenced by the Ryan Reynolds version of Deadpool. You can almost hear the actor reciting lines within the comic book itself, but the story kind of makes sense, at least half of it. And let's get into it and talk about why this isn't a bad comic book. I guess we just guessed this one wrong. We assumed Deadpool #1 was going to be bad. It opens up and there's a character called the Harrower. Has not been in Marvel Comics all that long, basically just a Poison Ivy knockoff. I think this character was actually just created in 2021, and she has Deadpool tied down, and it turns out there is a little bit of fallout from absolute carnage. She's got a little piece of a symbiote that keeps dying and killing its host. She wants to grow it so it can worship her. So she says, I want to implant it into Deadpool. It can grow inside of him. He's not going to die. And it all kind of made sense.
Yeah, I mean, the general plot was not completely nonsensical. The story wasn't bad. I mean, it seems weird to pick up off a event from like 2-3 years ago, but okay, sure. She's just an obvious, Poison Ivy knockoff. She doesn't explain why she wants a symbiote. Other than the fact
she does.
That,
she wants it to worship her.
But I mean, why she needs a symbiote to do that? She already has plants to do that.
Symbiotes are more dangerous than plants, especially she's got Carnage. It's not just any symbiote.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, I guess it's a way to bring Carnage back, although I'm pretty sure Carnage is already back. Doesn't he have a series currently running?
Yes. As this is happening, she's about to implant this symbiote into Deadpool. He's like, wait, you can't do this. I actually have an event that's supposed to be going on, and I have a deadline to meet, which felt like it was kind of out of nowhere. But it turns out Deadpool is being recruited by the Altair, some type of elite group of mercenaries. They brought him in, and he's supposed to kill Doc Ock. I thought it was pretty funny. He had like a little file on Doc Ock showing pictures of him, like bringing him in and arresting him and wondering why he doesn't have 8 legs and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a pretty good gimmick there. A couple of almost chuckles happened.
I have no idea what the Altair is.
I think this is their first appearance. I don't think this has ever been in Marvel Comics.
It's like an all-women elite assassin team, and that seemed really kind of off-putting. And the whole mission to kill Doc Ock was actually pretty interesting. It seemed a little out of left field. Again, not terribly interesting, nothing unique about this. This comic felt a lot like kind of a random fill-in issue. It also is kind of establishing, I guess, a new supporting cast.
What'd you think about Valentine Vong? Apparently she's got needles for fingers, and that is a very titillating experience for Deadpool. He ends up using a pickup line talking about how she had lovely needles and was very upset with himself.
You can't say she's a them. They did the very subtle non-binary thing. That's his kink is needles. They didn't give me anything to really make me start caring about this character. The character so far, she's very bland. Other than needles for fingers, doesn't say anything or do anything to really stand out. And honestly, I forgot her name before I finished the comic.
Well, after he meets the Altair and he gets recruited to go kill Doc Ock, he's in the middle of the mission. He ends up being taken by the Harrower. We get back to the present time, and she's got him. She's holding him down with the vines, and all of a sudden he kind of breaks loose. And then he starts wheeling and dealing and killing all these, I don't know, dog plant things or whatever, as if we don't have enough plant monsters in the Marvel Comics universe these days. But there's actually a joke here that almost lands. Well, I guess it does kind of land. He ends up killing like this big one. I guess he was in its mouth, and when he walks out, he goes, "Ooh, it's so wet." And she was like, "You don't know what that's like?" You know what I mean? Like a wet joke. And I was like, that was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And then he's like, wait, who's making the jokes here? And I thought that was actually the only time that Deadpool was even remotely funny in this. Look, if you're coming into this comic for any sort of Deadpool humor, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I will tell you that. There is not any bit of slapsticky, funny Deadpool humor. Nothing overt. There's a couple lines that are mediocre, bland comedy, Ellen DeGeneres comedy, but other than that, it's neither cringy nor funny. I guess it's not that offensive.
You can recognize it's supposed to be a joke, which I think is an improvement.
Yes, you can recognize that it's supposed to be a joke. Now, whether or not it's funny, I guess that's pretty subjective. I just didn't find anything in here like actually funny. I didn't want to reach through the comic book and punch somebody in the face either. Improvements?
Absolutely. I think this is probably the best comic book Alyssa Wong has written yet. Although I do remember there was a short story in a Urban Legends comic that tied into that Mariko Tamaki Detective Comics event. That was actually pretty decent. It was about Batwoman from Alyssa Wong. So she hasn't only done terrible stuff in the past. As Deadpool is escaping from the Harrower and all of her plant monsters or whatever, he realizes he's in the vicinity of Doc Ock, his laboratory, which he has scoped out. He's almost out of time. He's only got 2 hours to kill Doc Ock, or he's going to ruin his chances of joining the Altier and having a chance to score a date with this Valentine Vunk character. He gets to the roof. He's trying to get through to get to Doc Ock, and all of a sudden, the Carnage symbiote starts coming out of his chest, kind of like Aliens. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of like Aliens, just as far as the plot overreaching that's going on in here. And he ends up falling through, I guess, the skylight. He's going to try and kill him or whatever. Doc Ock is pretty confused. I thought that was effective.
Doc Ock's just like, wait, what the hell's going on here? I guess that's going to be where we go in the next issue. Although I have the sneaky suspicion they're going to write Doc Ock out in about like 2 pages. He'll just escape, go on his way.
Yeah, I don't think he's killing Doc Ock, Doc.
He doesn't kill Doc Ock, so he doesn't get into the Altier, but he really wants to hook up this needle finger chick. So he spends the next 6 or 8 issues until this comic gets canceled, like everything else Alyssa Wong has done.
So what do you think about the art of this? I thought Martin Kokolo did a pretty darn good job. It's not like the most vibrant, exciting art I've ever seen, but the construction was good. The layouts are a lot of fun, and I think Deadpool looked pretty damn good. It was kind of gory.
I think the lack of an anchor severely harms this comic. And I thought that there was some weird artistic choices with like giving the double page spread to his tracking Doc Ock wall instead, but then the following page is kind of some body horror, like crazy body horror right after the Carnage implant or Carnage symbiote got implanted into him, and he's flailing about and there's big chunks of his skin kind of like bulging out from the symbiote trying to eat him and grow from it. That would have been a perfect double page spread, but instead we get him standing at a murder wall. The coloring on the Harrower kept changing throughout. Like she's really shiny and bright, almost like crystal in the beginning, and then she just looks like a normal chick later. That kind of bugged me. Like, is that her look or is it not her look? Overall, the pencils were good. I just wish he would have been inked.
Definitely. That's one of the big issues really at Marvel and DC Comics these days, but I'm going to recommend this comic book. I'm not saying it's outstanding. I'm not saying it's amazing. It's like a 3.5 out of 5-star comic book. It's perfectly acceptable for reading. If you like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, if you like Ryan Reynolds in the movies, I think you're going to like this. It's pretty much that character, but in this comic book. And it's pretty well done.
I can't give it a recommend. As I said before, this feels like any random, fill in one-off issue in any of the previous runs of Deadpool. In fact, this feels like it would have been perfectly at home in the middle of the Daniel Way era of run of Deadpool.
Doc mentioned the use of pronouns, which you definitely see within this comic book, and I think that's one of the reasons I came into Deadpool apprehensive. Doc as well. We know that Alyssa Wong comes to Marvel Comics with an agenda. She specifically talked about what she wanted to do with Iron Fist and Star Wars. She wanted to queer up Star Wars when she came aboard Marvel Comics. I talked about this in an entire video, talking about some of her quotes, her own words, and what she's trying to accomplish at Marvel Comics. In spite of that, Deadpool's pretty good, but if you want to see who Alyssa Wong is, check this video out. If you don't see it here, there's also a link in the video description.